Hello everyone, and welcome back to Foreign Eyes on America. Around the world, people watch America with fascination, its freedom, its creativity, and its spirit. Today, we'll see how foreign media and millions of people view this remarkable nation. When comparing the technological rivalry between the United States and China, the semiconductor industry shows the most decisive gap. Despite China's massive investment under Made in China 2025, the distance in chip design and manufacturing is not shrinking, it is widening. America's lead comes from decades of accumulated intellectual property, human capital, and a global ecosystem that no nation can easily replicate. At the center of this dominance lies electronic design automation (EDA), software, the invisible tool used to design every modern chip. U.S. firms like Synopsys and Cadence control this field completely. Without these tools, no country can design competitive chips below 10 nanometers. China's domestic EDA industry lags by more than a decade, creating a choke point that effectively locks it out of the frontier. American strength also extends to chip architecture. Companies such as NVIDIA, AMD, and Intel design the processors powering AI, data centers, and defense systems. China's main rival, Huawei's HiSilicon, lost access to fabrication after U.S. sanctions, cutting off its path to production. Without partners like TSMC, China's designs remain only on paper. Another pillar of U.S. leadership is its innovation ecosystem. American universities attract global talent and collaborate with private industry in a continuous cycle. Education drives research, research fuels enterprise, and enterprise funds new discovery. China's state-driven system cannot replicate this open, creative loop. The U.S. also holds an unmatched geopolitical alliance, working with Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, and the Netherlands. Washington controls nearly every layer of the semiconductor supply chain. TSMC and Samsung lead advanced manufacturing. Tokyo Electron supplies materials, and ASML in the Netherlands produces the world's only extreme ultraviolet EUV lithography machines, the critical tools for producing high-performance chips. Because key EUV components, such as lasers and optics, are of American origin, Washington can block China from obtaining them. This prevents China from producing chips smaller than 7 nanometers, keeping its technology generations behind. The choke points go further. U.S. companies Applied Materials, Lam Research, and KLA dominate essential fabrication equipment for etching, coating, and inspection. Even China's top foundry, SMIC, relies heavily on these machines, making it vulnerable to export controls. Building domestic alternatives would take decades and an entire ecosystem of precision suppliers, a challenge far greater than funding alone can solve. Behind all this lies strategy. Washington has united allies like Japan, the Netherlands, and South Korea in enforcing export restrictions, forming a coordinated technological barrier. Even if China advances in one field, it remains constrained in others, trapped in a cycle of partial progress. This race is not just about chips, it is about power. Semiconductors underpin every modern economy, military system, and AI network. The nation that controls them shapes the future. For Beijing, closing this gap requires more than money. It demands a complete transformation of its innovation model, one that fosters creativity rather than control. That evolution will take generations. For Washington, the message is clear. America does not just build chips, it builds the systems, alliances, and minds that make chips possible. And in that structure of innovation, the United States stands not just ahead but alone. Beyond machines and materials, the deepest challenge in China's semiconductor ambitions lies in people, the lack of top-level engineers, and the growing isolation of its research ecosystem. Advanced chip design is not knowledge that can be reverse-engineered from imported products or learned from textbooks. It exists within a small global network of experts, built over decades of collaboration and experience. For years, the United States served as the training ground for elite semiconductor talent, including many who later founded or led China's top chip firms. But tightening U.S. visa rules, concerns over intellectual property, and rising political tensions now block this exchange. Thousands of Chinese students and researchers, who once trained in American universities and labs, the birthplace of cutting-edge chip science, are losing access to that vital ecosystem. This separation has serious consequences. China is trying to develop domestic talent through state-funded programs, but education alone cannot replace hands-on experience gained on billion-dollar production lines like those in the U.S., Taiwan, or South Korea. The ability to achieve high yields and continuous process improvement. What makes a factory world-class comes only from working within those mature systems. Without this experience, China's chip sector lacks the institutional knowledge required to move beyond prototypes. U.S. sanctions have also created a quiet but steady brain drain. Many of China's best engineers and scientists seek work abroad, where they can still use the latest American tools and technologies. Working on 3 nanometers or 2 nanometers projects overseas is far more appealing than being limited to outdated 28 nanometers processes at home. The U.S. and its allies, by controlling access to the future of chip technology, attract and retain the world's best talent, an advantage money cannot buy. As a result, China's push for semiconductor self-sufficiency is trapped in a cycle of isolation and inefficiency. Massive subsidies pour into projects that depend on outdated equipment and inconsistent quality. Analysts estimate that building a high-end fabrication plant in China costs 30–50% more than in Taiwan or South Korea, due to lower yields and weaker supply chains. The gap is not just technological but structural, an ecosystem problem that funding alone cannot solve. The most crucial metric in advanced manufacturing is yield, the percentage of working chips per wafer. At the 3 nanometers level, leading companies achieve yields above 90%. China's foundries, constrained by limited access to state-of-the-art tools, struggle to reach stable yields even at 7 nanometers. Every failed wafer means massive financial loss, turning each step forward into an expensive setback. While the rest of the world moves toward gate-all-around GAA transistors at 2 nanometers and beyond, China is still refining FinFET technology from earlier generations. Each new node requires entirely new tools, processes, and expertise. Being cut off from the global supply chain forces Chinese companies to reinvent technologies that others are already leaving behind, a costly race against obsolescence. China's engineers work tirelessly, but the gap keeps widening. Without global collaboration, exposure, and access to the newest tools, its semiconductor rise remains constrained by the limits of isolation. For Washington and its allies, this reinforces a hard truth. Innovation is not just about machines, it's about people. And in the race for the future of semiconductors, the United States still trains, employs, and inspires the minds who define what comes next. The final element solidifying the American advantage is not its strength in isolation, but the interdependence of the global semiconductor ecosystem, which the U.S. effectively orchestrates and controls. The industry is characterized by an extremely complex, multinational division of labor that makes true self-sufficiency for any single nation virtually impossible, especially for a country facing widespread sanctions and technology controls. The U.S. acts as the central nervous system of this vast ecosystem. It is allied with Taiwan TSMC for cutting-edge foundry services, South Korea's Samsung for memory and advanced fabrication, the Netherlands ASML for lithography, and Japan for crucial materials and specialized equipment, e.g., photoresists and high-purity chemicals. This collaborative framework, often referred to as the Chip 4 Inches or Fab 4 Alliance, ensures that any attempt by China to unilaterally advance is immediately met by a coordinated, unified refusal of access to essential technology and materials. This collective control provides a structural advantage China cannot overcome alone. Furthermore, the scale required for economic viability is immense. The cost of a single cutting-edge fabrication plant fab now exceeds $20 billion, and new technology nodes demand multi-year development cycles and astronomical R&D budgets. By controlling access to the largest global markets and advanced IP, the U.S. and its allies ensure that their collective market dominance drives down costs and increases efficiency, making their chips cheaper and better than any domestic Chinese alternative. China's heavily subsidized domestic production struggles to achieve the necessary economy of scale without guaranteed access to the global consumer market and the advanced technology required for competitive pricing. In conclusion, China's bid for technological parity in semiconductors faces not a single roadblock, but an entire matrix of control spanning design software, manufacturing equipment, human talent, and multinational alliances. While China may eventually achieve self-sufficiency in older, legacy chips, 28 nanometers and above, the U.S. holds a structural, strategic advantage over the next generation of critical technologies, the kind of advanced computing required for true AI leadership and military modernization. The foundation of American technological power remains unbreached, secured by a global network. From Tokyo to Paris, from Seoul to London, the world keeps watching America. Because no matter where you are, the American story still inspires. Thanks for watching Foreign Eyes on America. Don't forget to like and subscribe.